Thank all participants and academics for being here today, showing interest in theater and performance studies, and attending our guest speaker's talk today. This talk will be recorded and can be watched later on our YouTube page. I'm Enes Kavak, an assistant professor of English from Gaziantep University. I'll be hosting this event on behalf of the organizing committee of Theater and Drama Network, whose other members will be accompanying us. Assistant Professor Pelin Doğan Özger, Assistant Professor Hakan Gültekin, Associate Professor Mesut Günenç, and Assistant Professor Işın Şahin Gülter. This talk will be the last of our online talk series this semester, which offered a platform for promoting respected academics contributing to our field, and also offering a chance for us to listen to their recent research and works in their topics of expertise. Prior to Professor Ülker Erkan's speech, I would shortly talk about Theater and Drama Network. TDN is a non-profit network founded by a group of Turkish scholars aiming to promote research through academic events, educational activities, and published work in the field of Western and Turkish theaters, drama, and performance studies. Network thus offers academic space for exchange, knowledge sharing, and international collaboration. TDN also aims to raise the profile of theatrical events, academic works, and playwrights by facilitating scholars, authors, and translators' collaborative works on Turkish, Anglophone, and European theaters. This year, Theater and Drama Network will be hosting the second of our International Theater and Drama Studies Conference series entitled Adaptation, Appropriation, and Translation, which is to be held online on 8th, 9th, and 10th December 2023. For further details of the network's events, you can find the details on the TDN social media accounts. Also, for more information, you can email us at theaterdramanetwork@gmail.com. Thank you very much for your patience. Now, I would like to introduce Professor Dr. Ayça Ülker Erkan to our audience. Professor Dr. Ayça Ülker Erkan got her BA on English Literature, MA on American Culture and Literature, and PhD on English Literature from Ege University in 2005. She completed her postdoctoral study at English Department, University of Minnesota in 2008. She worked as the chair of the Department of English Language and Literature at Manisa Celal Bayar University between 2014 and 2018. She wrote books entitled Kerry Churchill'in Oyunlarında Feminist Yansımalar in 2010, Subversive Female Voices in the Place of Timberlake, Wertenbaker, and Pam James in 2019, and Marginal Women in Theater in 2020, and Representations of Mythological and Historical Women in Literature in 2022. She has presented several papers at international conferences, wrote book chapters, and published several articles on her area of study in international journals. Her main interests are feminist theater, gender studies, and contemporary women's theater. She is currently working at Izmir Democracy University as the chair of the Department of English Language and Literature. Her speech today is entitled Destructive Desire of Phaedra in Euripides play Hippolytus, and its reflection in Timberlake Wertenbaker's play Love of the Nightingale. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I will leave now the stage to Professor Ayça Ülker Erkan.
Okay, thank you very much, Enes, for this beautiful introduction. And I would like to thank to Theater and Drama Network organizers for inviting me to make a speech on this platform. Then they invite distinguished speakers and make a wonderful contribution to this field with their committed efforts. I would like to welcome you all, colleagues, students, for taking up your time and to be a part of this event. Thank you very much for all of you. Okay, so I will start my presentation. As you said, the destructive desire of Phaedra in Euripides' play, Hippolytus, and its reflection in Timberlake Wertenbaker's play, The Love of the Nightingale. So in this speech, my focus is on the subversion of gender roles and destructive feminine desire, first by the Greek playwright Euripides' play, Hippolytus, and its reflection to the contemporary feminist play, The Love of the Nightingale, by Timberlake Wertenbaker, within the myth of Philomel. Wertenbaker depicts the Greek tragedy, Hippolytus, mainly, as the story of Phaedra's incestuous love for her stepson, presented as a play-in-play technique in the play Love of the Nightingale, to represent female sexuality ending up in destruction and shame, since both Phaedra and Philomel treat the patriarchal power. Of course, these plays, as you see, the starting point is the Greek drama, and it represents a kind of feminine wish or feminine power, which is seen as a threat in the patriarchal society, in patriarchal order. So basically, this Greek tragedy, Hippolytus, actually, in a way, presents the way people think at that time, you know, the patriarchal order. And of course, in Timberlake Wertenbaker's The Love of the Nightingale, it's a kind of modern reinscription of this myth and of Euripides' play Hippolytus. And of course, from a much feminist perspective, and of course, drawing attention to women's sexual empowerment. And of course, so this is, I think, a very interesting play. At the same time, you may see many reflections of this play in different writers like Sarah Kane's Phaedra's Love, and many other dramas. Okay, so the dramatization of violence and silencing of Philomel emphasizes the violent silencing of women in Greek myth and theater. In Euripides' play, both Hippolytus and Phaedra become victims of two deities, Aphrodite and Artemis. Of course, you see many interesting figures like Aphrodite and Artemis, since these are, you know, feminine representations of the mythological figures, and you see their influence much in the play. The female desire brings destruction on the lives of central characters in both plays. Wertenbaker's play reverses the traditional structures and gender ideology of Greek drama by subverting the patriarchal power. Wertenbaker reverses the traditional ideology of Greek drama that women must submit the patriarchal power by creating marginal women characters in the play. The next slide, please. Euripides' play, Hippolytus, as you see in the figure, is based on the myth of Hippolytus, the son of King of Athens, Theseus, and passion of Theseus' wife, Phaedra, for her stepson. The play was first Euripides' play produced and performed for the festival of Dionysia in Athens, approximately in 428 BC, and it won the first prize as a part of a trilogy. Euripides criticized the social life of Athenian society in his portrayals of gods as vicious and cruel super beings who destructively toy with humankind, as we witness in the play Hippolytus. From the very beginning of the play, goddesses' enmity for human beings are presented. As Jason, the chorus, and the servant of Hippolytus state, the common idea that reason must be our guide, gods should be wiser than man, is subverted by Aphrodite and Artemis, since they are not reasonable, and they always seek for taking revenge from human beings. The play begins with a formal prologue spoken by Aphrodite, the goddess of passion and love, as you might know, summarizing the story of Theseus and his family, and that will become of them. She announces that she will destroy Hippolytus for ignoring her. Thus, she caused Phaedra to fall in love with her stepson and finally undo him. Phaedra will be destroyed too, finally, which she sees as an unfortunate necessity. Okay, if we talk about Euripides' play Hippolytus, maybe for those who do not know much about the play, or maybe you didn't read it, but I will just tell you, give an information about the play very briefly. The play is set in Troezen, which is a small coastal town in northeastern Peloponnesian in Greece. The king of Athens, Theseus, sought volunteer exile after killing a local king and his son. He comes back at home right after his wife commits suicide. The next slide, please. His illegitimate son is called Hippolytus, whose birth is the result of Theseus' rape of the Amazon queen Hippolyta. The boy was taken away from his mother, and he grew as an athlete and hunter, despising luxurious life and his sworn chastity. Theseus married Phaedra, which will bring him a terrible misfortune, both on himself and her. Phaedra fell in love with her stepson, Hippolytus, who paid no attention to any woman around him. The chorus consisting of married young women of Troezen describes how Phaedra has neither eaten nor slept for 3 days. Phaedra, appearing with the nurse, confesses the reason of her sickness, that she lost Hippolytus. The nurse and the chorus are shocked. Recovering from the shock, the nurse advises Phaedra to take a medicine which will cure her and tell her to give in her love and continue her life as if nothing has happened. The nurse tells Hippolytus of Phaedra's desire and makes a promise that he will not tell this to anyone. He reacts furiously. Moreover, he has misogynistic attitude. When Phaedra learns that the secret is out, she thinks that she is ruined forever. She makes the chorus swear her secret and commits suicide. Then Theseus discovers the dead body in pain, along with a letter in which Phaedra puts the blame on Hippolytus. Theseus misinterprets his son and blames him for raping Phaedra and curses him to death, or at least exile, calling Poseidon. You know, Poseidon is the god of the sea. Hippolytus goes into the exile when the chorus laments for him. Upon Aphrodite's request to Poseidon, the sea god, he sends a sea monster, which frightened Hippolytus' horses and dragged him along the rocks. While Hippolytus lies dying, Artemis tells him the truth that Hippolytus is innocent and Phaedra lied. The play finishes with the chorus expressing the common grief upon Hippolytus's death. So this is what happens in the story. The next slide, please. Okay, as you see, Euripides is Hippolytus. Okay, and as you see, Poseidon sends the sea master. Of course, this is the death scene of Hippolytus, which is called the Great Chariot Disaster, as you see in the picture. From the very beginning of the play, the playwright brings rivalry between Aphrodite and Artemis, which seems to oppose to the idea that gods should be wiser than men. Still, wisdom is unconsciously associated to male gender because Aphrodite's passion for Hippolytus causes the mischief that will bring fatal ends. The first speech in the play starts with Aphrodite telling the reason of her jealousy for Hippolytus. He's false love and will have nothing to do with sex. He honors Poseidon's sister Artemis and Zeus's maiden and thinks she is the greatest of gods. She announces that she will take revenge from Hippolytus and destroy him. As she says, quote, I will reveal the things to Theseus, to everybody. The young man who is hostile to me will be killed by his father's curses, unquote. The passion of Aphrodite for Hippolytus brings his downfall. The feminine desire for Hippolytus is the main reason of the tragedy, which is reflected to the desire of human being planted in Phaedra. Phaedra is presented as being a miniature version of Aphrodite, is a woman in self-conflict, unquote. Okay, feminine desire for a man is presented as a destructive force since it brings disorder, loosens the patriarchal power, and it sees women as a threat to disrupt this power. So as you see, the main focus is on the destructive desire of women, which is avoided, which is seen as a threat to the patriarchal society, so which should be put under control. There is clearly a reversal of gender roles, since Hippolytus is presented as chaste and virgin. It's very interesting as you see the presentation of such male figure. And of course, in another play written by Sarah Kane about Phaedra's love, as you see, Hippolytus's representation is just the opposite. Of course, you see not a feminine but a masculine figure, and of course, Hippolytus is presented as a very disgusting man who is after sex all the time, and he is presented in his very untidy room. Of course, this is very interesting. There are many different representations of Hippolytus in different stories, in different plays as well. Okay, if we come back to this story, our play, Hippolytus avoids of any feminine attraction coming from either a deity or a human being. Moreover, he has misogynistic ideas that human race should get rid of women. Next slide, please. Okay, you see here Aphrodite, the goddess of passion and love, and Artemis, as you see, the virginal Greek goddess of hunt and wild places. As you see, these are, from the very beginning of the play, in Greek play, you see they are taking very dominant power. They are very angry with Hippolytus, as you see. Actually, they are very represented as strong mythological figures in the play. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, so as you see, Hippolytus' speech here, which presents his most misogynistic ideas of human race. So everybody should get rid of humans. So this is a very interesting one. Okay, if you wish to propagate the human race, you should have arranged it without human. Man might have deposited in your temples gold and iron, a weight of copper to purchase offspring, relieving of humankind. Happiest he is who has a shipper of for a wife, a useless simpleton to sit at home. A clever woman I hate. May there never be in my house a woman more intellectual than a woman ought to be. Still, I shall never tire of hating women. For that matter, they never tire of wickedness. Okay, so this is the speech of Hippolytus taken from the play. Euripides clearly reveals the position of women from a patriarchal view, that women should be taken under control, and lack of male authority brings disorder. So this is the general assumption of the Greek society, okay, which is put in the mouthpiece of Hippolytus. The desire of women is never tolerated, let alone having an illicit relationship. Euripides hinders his heroine to face with such a public scandal. Phaedra is the victim of fate. Goddesses, her desire and society in which she lived. Before she commits suicide, she states that she will never disgrace her family for her poisonous desire. Quote, never will disgrace my Cretan home, nor will I face Theseus on so vile a charge, not for the sake of one little life. Unquote. As you see in the quotation, she belittles her life, and of course, this depicts the position of women within the society, and of course, giving up their, let's say, desire and their position in the society. Phaedra conforms with the patriarchal society, which suppresses her desire, since women's desire is seen as a destructive force in the dominant society. At the end of the play, the order is restored, illicit sexual desire of a woman is taken under control with repression of women's speech. Phaedra's inability to talk about her affection leads her into silence of women's speech in the form of death. The play depicts the gender impasse waiting on the side of male empowerment. Okay, my next slide, please. The next subtitle is Phaedra in Timberlake Wertenbaker's play, The Love of the Nightingale. So this is a modern play which depicts the story of Hippolytus and Phaedra from mythological perspective. And of course, this is a kind of modern modern representation of this play. Wertenbaker's The Love of the Nightingale is a modern reinscription of Greek theater, which embodies a feminist critique of the theatrical conventions and ideological concerns of Greek theater, culture, and society. It is not coincidence that the playwright chooses her protagonist from the Greek mythology to emphasize the patriarchal oppression which dates back from the ancient times and continuing still in modern ages. Wertenbaker takes the side of women, and she alienates the play as, quote, paradigmatic of the violent silencing of women in Greek theater, unquote, to give a contemporary twist. Philomel, a minor figure in Greek mythology, is identified as being the princess of Athens and the daughter of Pandion, a legendary king of Athens. Her sister Procne married Tereus, king of Thrace, and went to live with him in Thrace. After 5 years, Procne wanted to see her sister, so Tereus goes to Athens to bring Philomel back for a visit. In the meanwhile, Tereus found Philomel so beautiful that he raped her. Then he cut her tongue so she could not tell what had happened to anyone. He misinformed Procne, his wife, that her sister is dead. Unable to speak, Philomel wove a tapestry depicting the story and arranged for an old woman to take it to Procne. When Procne saw the weaving, she asked the woman to lead her to Philomel. After rescuing her sister Procne, planned revenge on her husband. She killed her son Itzi and served him to Tereus for supper. So this is a horrible story, as you see. At the end of the meal, Philomel threw the boy's head on the table. Realizing what had happened, Tereus chased the women and tried to kill them. However, before he could caught them, the gods transformed them all into birds. Tereus became a hawk or a hoopie, while Procne became a nightingale, and Philomel a swallow. Okay, so this is taken from the story of Philomel, as you may see in on the internet. Okay, so there are different versions of the story, as you see. This is one of them. Of course, there is a kind of slight difference in each story, but they have something in common. Okay, so if we talk about the play, The Love of the Nightingale, it's an adaptation of the myth of Philomel, as you see. It depicts the violation of Philomel, who refuses to yield to patriarchal oppression of Theseus. Wertenbaker makes a twist in Euripides' play Hippolytus, in which the woman was left to death to avoid of any disgrace or shame. The meta-theater in the play, which appears as a subplot, supports female empowerment. Fragments of Euripides' play Hippolytus is being watched by the king's court with Tereus as a guest. According to Whiston, one of the critics, Hippolytus and Philomel are representatives of female sexuality ending up in destruction and shame, since they treat the patriarchal power. Wertenbaker presents the story of Phaedra's incestuous love for her stepson as a play within play technique to strengthen an archetype situation of transgression. The dramatization of violence and silencing of Philomel critically emphasize the violent silencing of women in Greek myth and theater. Philomel internalizes the character Phaedra in the meta-theater in scene 5. It serves as a foreshadowing of events that will take place, a woman's desire bringing a catastrophic end, and the idea of fate being irresistible and no escape. The next slide, please. Okay, speech and silence are important in both plays. Phaedra's belief of silence is a result of her accepting the patriarchal order, which makes her ashamed by her desire. This is not the case, actually, with Tereus, who excuses his lust for his sister-in-law. The moral dilemma, sex, guilt, and shame, does not apply to Tereus. As you see, this is a kind of difference, taking the side of male attraction. So in this case, nothing happens to Tereus, and he doesn't pay for it. So I think this is why Wertenbaker presents Tereus as, not a very sympathetic man, but as a threat to the order, even if he is a king. Wertenbaker demonstrates the destructive male desire, resulting in destruction of female bodies, whereas the same male desire does not end up in male destruction, but just the opposite way. In Euripides' play, Hippolytus, the female sexuality is represented as, I quote, something both destructive and shameful, unquote. Wertenbaker points out that destructive forces is the result of, quote, not from expressions of female sexuality, but from acts that destructive forces is the result of not from expression of female sexuality, but from the acts of male violence and the rapt sexuality it engenders, unquote. Tereus commits many crimes, such as murder, incest, rape, mutilation. Still, he puts the blame on Philomel and acts hypocritical to his wife Procne. Tereus silences Philomel not to reveal the truth by cutting her tongue cruelly, whereas Phaedra keeps herself silent by committing suicide. In both cases, women are kept silent. Patriarchal moral order puts the blame on women and oppresses them. Silence is the type of oppression of women, as you may see in much of the plays or representations of women in many plays. You see, even in the stage directions, you may read silence. Of course, this is not for the sake of writing down the silence, but this is a silent reaction. Of course, to depict, of course, there are a lot of things to talk about, but giving the stage directions as silence, writing it in this way, is a silent reaction, actually. So this is, I think, very important, especially in modern theater and drama. Okay, so here, as you see, silence is a type of oppression of women, which makes them unable to express themselves within the society. Philomel is considered as an unconventional woman because of her unspoken nature, especially in expressing her desire and associating herself with Phaedra while watching Euripides' play. When Tereus hears that Phaedra has fallen in love with her stepson, he reacts immediately. Her own stepson, that's wrong. However, he does the same when he falls in love with his stepsister Philomel and destroys her life. Philomel empathies with Phaedra's passion when she states, it's not Phaedra's fault, she loves him. But Tereus speaks in a suppressed tone. She could keep silent about it. Phaedra has lied. That is vile. When King Pandion gives a decision that Philomel should not travel with Tereus as he sees the danger, Philomel objects to the decision as she says, quote, but father, I am not Hippolytus. You haven't cursed me. And Tereus isn't Phaedra. Look, unquote. She creates her own doom and punishment because she did not obey the patriarchal order. Okay, the next slide, please. Gender difference is rooted from the play Hippolytus, in which women are the losers. As Whiston states, whereas the father of Hippolytus is an oppressed figure, suffering moral torment, because she feels therefore so strongly, Tereus, the male oppressor, can manipulate them to excuse his violence. Tereus says that he loves Philomel. No, the play. I'm Phaedra. I love you that way. Who can resist the gods? Those are your words, Philomel. They convinced me. Your words. Tereus quits Philomel's desire for the captain by killing him in scene 12. Desire of a woman for a man is not tolerated. The female desire is seen as a treat, but male desire is not punished. Moreover, it is women who pay for the shame. Wertenbaker criticizes the male hypocrisy when the rapist pays for his crime at the end of the play, with his own son being murdered with the collaboration of the two sisters, as you see. So this is his payment. Wertenbaker draws attention to the need of women's collaboration according to radical feminist perspective, which strengthens the position of women in a patriarchal society when they form a unique and exclusive women's group in the Bashayan festival. Of course, at the end of the play, in Timberlake, Wertenbaker's play, you see that there's a kind of women's group, only unique for women. None of the male counterparts are invited. So this is like a celebration, a festival in which they drink alcoholic drinks, wine, and they got drunk. So this is a very interesting scene. And according to radical feminist critics, this is the place where the women got their empowerment. Of course, the end of the play is totally different from Euripides' play, in which the women, in a way, take a revenge. And of course, so this is a destructive revenge, actually, but destruction brings destruction, as you see the end of the play. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, I would like to come to a conclusion, and as a result, Wertenbaker's The Love of the Nightingale is turning upside down the ideology of women's silence into women's voice, since the play criticizes the conventional patriarchal moral order that women should keep their silence, coming from the early ages. Phaedra kills herself to avoid any public disgrace. For the welfare of her own society, her life has no meaning. Wertenbaker's play is presented from a radical feminist outlook by deconstructing the ideology of the suppressed woman in Euripidean playtext. Tereus' rape and silencing of Philomel by cutting her tongue do not prevent Philomel to reveal Tereus' mischief. The female chorus backs up the silenced, oppressed people like Philomel at the end of the play by asking several questions about displaced people. All women collaborate to take a revenge in a metamorphosis scene. Birds break the silence of women at the end of the play, since this is the voice of the marginalized, the disempowered, and the disappeared, resisting mastery, striving to make itself heard. Both Phaedra and Philomel tend to defeat male hegemonic power on their own. Phaedra deceives the male power by her planned suicide, leaving a false letter to take her personal revenge. On the other hand, Philomel, supported by female Bachentas, taking the revenge of the violated and suppressed woman. Wertenbaker's play points out that the female bonding transgresses patriarchal oppression. There is a possibility of compromise, hope, and tolerance at the end of Wertenbaker's play, opening a new perspective in women's position within the society. So there is an open-ended plot, and of course, this brings with itself bringing a new perspectives on women's, depicting the women's position in a very positive way. Okay, thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. And okay, in the next slides, you may see the works cited part. Okay, and there are many references, of course.
Thank you very much, Professor Erkan, for this lovely and informative presentation. And it was really interesting for us, especially to see how Greek ancient theater can be still applicable for our contemporary theaters. And Wertenbaker certainly is a continuous collaborator and contributor to this field. And we enjoy the play that's written by him. And it's interesting to see how also in the contemporary theater, still human suffering, especially women suffering, and violence becomes a kind of spectacle for the audiences. As we can understand, is in Greek theater, it was certainly an important topic, as it's kind of celebration. Theater constitute a celebration for Greek people, and people watch this as a civic event. When it comes to the contemporary theater, that's very interesting to see this same kind of inclination among the public audience, to see this kind of violence and to see how the well-known topics of the plays, well-known plays are reinterpreted. So it is also interesting that we are having an adaptation and appropriation conference which will be related to this topic, and it's a good step for us to be able to have a chance to talk about, how appropriation is a very integral part of the contemporary theater. So thank you very much for this speech, and I think we have some time for questions and your comments and your suggestions also. If you want to talk, you can let us know, or you can use the chat section for give us a feedback or to ask a question to Professor Ülker Erkan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, actually, yes. Any questions or comments?
To start. Pelin Hocam.
You may also get further information from the book that I wrote. I hope you can see it on the screen. There is a chapter for this part, and the book entitled Subversive Female Voices in the Place of Timberlake, Wertenbaker, and Pam James. So the related part is, of course, mainly focuses on the dramatization of silencing subversive women and gender oppression in Wertenbaker's play. Maybe I thought maybe it will be a useful source for you as well.
Thank you. Especially for our lessons, we can use that chapter, and we'll be interested together. Thank you. And I think Pelin Hocam will.
Yes. Ayça Hocam, I would like to thank you again for your being here today with us and for this enlightening speech as well. And as Enes Hocam said, this was like a warming speech before our conference, Adaptation, Translation, and Appropriation. I will make a brief comment rather than a question, and I also want your opinion on this. As you said, in the case of this play, this reinscription or adaptation of Greek theater, you mentioned the ways in which the play subverts the assigned identity categories against the established gender roles and mainstream ideals. And I think that this is a really good example of how theater can be, subversive in creating counter-public spaces for the marginalized, for the silenced voices, in the case of display women's sexuality, for example. And I think this reminds me of the policy-making character of theater, which is really, vital for us. I just wanted to add this, and maybe I can hear your opinion. Thank you very much again, Ayça Hocam.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Actually, yes, as you see, theater is the representation of the life of people. Actually, it's kind of, bringing up another perspective, that you may never see it from this perspective. This is very interesting side. I would like to point out Timberlake Wertenbaker's play, which is, there are many plays of, this is a collected work, actually. What I would like to point out is the presentation of chorus. In Greek tragedy or Greek tragedies, you see traditional representation of choruses, actually speaking out what the general people, the common people think about, or it gives a kind of background information, or it represents the common sense. Okay, what is right or what is wrong? So in a way, there are many functions of the chorus, of course, in Greek tragedy. But here, this play, Wertenbaker's modern play, starts with the male chorus. This is very interesting, I guess. Okay, why a modern play starts with the chorus? And of course, this is not the actual, there is no actual function of the chorus here, right, in the play. But as you see, there are two choruses. One chorus is the male chorus, in which the very first scene starts. And as it says, Athens, the male chorus. The male chorus, war. Two soldiers come on with swords and shields. The first soldier speaks. You cur, the second soldier. You cat's whisker, the first soldier. You fleece foot. Okay, they quarrel, as you see. They swear each other. And then there is the pause. And of course, the chorus tells us about their fight. And it says, now they are dead. Okay, so we begin here because no life ever has been untouched by the war. Okay, so male chorus, in a way, takes the side of, the war, the soldiers, and, mostly masculine empowerment. And of course, even if in the scenes where, terrorist kills the captain and, of course, rapes, for example, Philomel, okay, they say that we saw nothing. Of course, they see everything. But, this is, I think, a very striking part which is presented to the male chorus. But if you see the female chorus in the coming parts, you see that they have certain names. They are not called female chorus, but they are individuals. And they talk much about, they are backing up Procne and taking her side. And of course, criticizing what has happened and what is happening. And of course, they say silence, silence, silence. So they say always in their silence, of course, they bring up the general expectation of women. And of course, from this perspective, I think even by the presentation of the chorus, there is a kind of, drawing the audience's attention to the gender issues. And of course, so I think this is valuable as well. So it came to my mind. I would like to share it with you. Yes.
Okay,
Any
thank you very
comment?
much. I will have a comment. This book, the ontology you have, that I have the same thing, and there is an introduction by Wertenbaker to this play explaining how he came up with the idea. He says,
Yes.
without language, brutality will triumph. I grew up in the Basque country where language was systematically silenced, and it's sometimes something that always haunts me. It's interesting that how this play uses silence as a work for, work especially central to the theater, as we expect spectacle much, to be much more fundamental in the theater, especially thinking that performance and visuality are more important. But this play focuses on how silence speaks to us as the audiences and how it is translated, interpreted into contemporary theater. We have a question, interesting question by Sinan. Sinan, I think, is my student. He asked, does the bird in the game, in the play, symbolizes freedom of thought? It's an interesting symbolic.
Yes, very interesting depiction. Thank you very much for this question. Actually, when we see the end of the story, they, yes, for example, I'm going to talk about this. Thank you very much for asking this question. Okay, what happens at the end of the play? I will take this part and then talk about it. Okay, as you see, the Nightingale here in scene 21, there's Itzy and the birds. And of course, this is not coincidence. Each character represents the characteristics of those birds. And actually, you see that, for example, why Philomel becomes a nightingale. Okay, there's the female nightingale. In nature, it's mutilated, but she sings in the loud voice you hear because, Philomel has been mutilated and she's unable to speak. But as she becomes the nightingale, of course, she sings her songs, and of course, in a very interesting. So another character becoming, okay, as I said here, I will find the right place. Okay. Hopi, yes. Okay, Tereus turns out as a Hopi. Okay, why? But any other creature. Of course, Procne, for example, becomes a swallow. As you know, swallow is a small, bird who travels during its life. As you see, it goes. They always travel to warm climate places, and of course, here you see the depiction of the swallow. As you see, Procne has to move from her home country. She was not volunteer for this because she was presented as a gift to the King Taras. It was a gift of her father. So she changed, of course, there's patriarchal control. So her father gave her as a gift, and of course through marriage, but still she misses her country. So Athens is the center of intellectual power, and of course, as you see, there are many tragedies being performed. It's a very important place of that time, and of course, she has to travel, to her husband's place, which is not a very nice place. as she says, human beings are not very cultivated. It's not like in Athens. So she's traveling, you know, all the time. That's why maybe she becomes a swallow and Telos, very interestingly, Hopi. And I think these are very interesting birds that embodies their natural properties, as you may see, which is in alignment with the characters, let's say characteristic values, most probably. Okay.
Thank you very much. We have 2 comments, so I need to mention them. Gülten Silindir Hocam and Ahmet Hocam sent their thanks to you for this talk. And any questions or any comments on the speech or anything about Theatre and Drama Network talk series? Any? No. Okay. Thank you very much for attending this session of this talk. We want to thank again to Professor Dr. Ayça Ülker Erkan for her contribution. This was a privilege for us to have her. And also it's an interesting coincidence that we started with a kind of adaptation play, which will be followed by our conference. And I would like to invite all of you to our conference, which will be held online on 8, 9, and 10 December 2023. And I want to say thank you again, and I will finish the session.
Okay, thank you very much for TDN Network organizers for organizing such a very meaningful event. And I hope, of course, I'm sure you will make a very productive, let's say, conference at the end of the year. Thank you very much for everyone participating. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone. Thank you everyone, and thank you Ayça Hocam. Bye bye.
Ayça Hocam, bir şey sorabilir miyim?
Tabii ki.
Ben Gülten Silindir Hocam. Doktoramı daha yeni bitirdim Aralık ayında. Burada Arap Dil Edebiyatı bölümü var hocam. Bir hocamız cimri oyunu hakkında bir soru sordu. Ben de hani tiyatro oyunuyla ilgili olduğu için sizin görüşlerinizi almak istedim. Aynı zamanda Enes Hocam, Pelin Hocam da görüşlerini belirtirse sevinirim. Yani bir fikir verirseniz. Şöyle bir soru yöneltti hocamız. Şimdi Molière'in cimrisi Arap kültüründe, Arap edebiyatında bir adaptasyona uğramış. Yani nasıl diyeyim? Buna biz ilham mı diyoruz yoksa Molière'in cimri oyunu adapte mi edilmiş oluyor hocam? Yani bambaşka yeni bir oyun mu oluyor yoksa Molière'in cimri oyunundan adapte mi edilmiş oluyor?
Şimdi Molière'in Cimri adlı romanını tabii biliyoruz ama onun üzerine bir çalışma yapmadım. Çünkü Arap edebiyatı ile ilgili hani association'ı hakkında çok fazla bilgim yok. Ama genel anlamda bütün tiyatrolara baktığınızda mutlaka bir source material vardır. Hatta bir veya birden fazla source material vardır. Birçok yazar, özgün yazar bence bunları ne yapıyor? Collected bir şekle getirip kendi fikrini oluşturup kendi bakış açısına göre bence bunları adaptasyonda özellikle bence bu çok çok önemli. Yani primary source'u alıp primary source'un üzerine bir takım katkılar sağlayıp yeni bir şey çıkıyor ortaya. Yani ilk source'un tekrarı veya işte taklit edilmesi, imitation gibi bir şey değil bence bu. Onun üzerine katılan bence çok da iyi bir şey. Interpret etme yoluyla veya onu farklı okuma şekillerinde öne sürmek tabii ki çok ilginç. Bakın mesela bu oyunla ilgili konuştum size. Mesela bilmiyorum zamanınız olursa Sarah Kane'in Phaedra's adlı oyununu okuyun. Çok ilginçtir. Aynen bu Hippolytus'u alıyor. Benim bir master öğrencim var şimdi Temmuz'da savunmaya girecek. Onun master test konusu bunun üzerineydi. İlginç bir şey. Sarah Kane'de de bakın ne kadar farklı. Yani birinci hikaye farklı, mitolojik olarak sunulan şey farklı. Sarah Kane'de Hippolytus tamamen aykırı, uçuk. Hatta burada tabii ki o tarz çok farklı bir şey yani. O tarzda daha biliyorsunuz farklı bir yazın var. Sarah Kane ve diğer yazınlarda tabii ki. Ama genel anlamda bakarsak mesela o oyunu almış, tamamen farklı bir şey yapmış. O günün mesela British ne denir? Kraliyet deki yani kraliyet ailesinin yaşantısını da eleştiriyor aslında oyunda. Yani modern version şeklinde bunu yapıyor. Bu da tabii okuyuşlar tamamen farklı bakın. Algılama farklı. Bakış açısı farklı. Bence bu yönden biraz bakmak lazım. Bilmiyorum sizler ne diyorsunuz Enes Hoca?
Evet hocam, yani ben de şöyle diyebilirim. Oyunlar aslında bir şekilde tiyatroda birçok oyun başka şeyden esinlenme, başka eserden esinlenerek yazılıyor. Yani bunlar kültürel bir uyarlama da olabilir. Cultural appropriation da olabilir. Bazı oyunlar direkt genre değiştiriyorlar. Bunlar adaptasyon da olabilir. Yani kitaptan filme taşınmış olabilir. Kitapta bir filmden daha sonra tiyatroya taşınmış olabilir. Aslında spesifik olarak oyuna bakmak lazım. Çünkü source material tamamen genre değiştirilerek taşınıyorsa bu bir adaptasyon ve yani sinemada çok yapılan bir şeydir. Tiyatroya da bu taşınır. Ama konu yani sadece çerçeve olarak alınabilir veya kültürel olarak başka bir kültüre taşınmış olabilir ki bunu da Türkiye'de Türk tiyatrosunda görebiliyoruz. Avrupa tiyatrosunun etkisini. Burada da kültürel bir uyarlamadan bahsedebiliriz. Zaten tiyatronun bence buna da ihtiyacı var. Yani
Kesinlikle.
janralar arası olması gerekiyor. Çünkü görsel, yazınsal birçok elementi bir araya getiriyor. O yüzden yani film ve roman sanatıyla da iç içe olması çok doğal. Yani bir tartışma da var tabii. Tiyatro adaptasyonu kopya mıdır, çalıntı mıdır? İşte bir
Evet.
eleştiri de oluşuyor ama ben açıkçası bu eleştiriye karşıyım. Tiyatronun materyali aslında hayat. Görsel olan, işitsel olan her şey tiyatroya materyal olabilir. Edebiyat da büyük bir kaynak ve başka birçok çeşitte uyarlanmalı. Bu orijinalliği bozduğunu veya eserin değerini düşürdüğünü ben düşünmüyorum açıkçası.
Aslında şu bağlamda da bakmak lazım. Yani bir rewriting'tir bu. Tamamen mesela tiyatro çok farklı bir janra. Yani özellikle yani okunsun diye yazılmaktan çok perform edilmek amacıyla zaten yazılan eserlerdir. Burada bakın stage direction'lar vardır. Ne bileyim çok özellikle modern tiyatroda çok inanılmaz böyle şey vardır, detay vardır stage direction'da. Neden? Bak benim oyunumu bu şekilde interpret edin. Çünkü stage manager'ın, sahne yönetmeninin bakış açısı da mesela oyuna yansıyabiliyor. O nasıl interpret ediyor? Ona göre o tiyatral eseri koyabiliyor. Mesela bir aktörün veya aktrisin girdiği role benimsemesi, internalize etmesi veya etmemesi. Mesela o bakış açısı yani veya işte ne bileyim onlar da bence çok çok önemli. Tamamen en ufak şeyde onu değiştirebilir. Bir de şey aklıma geldi. Etkileşim mutlaka var. Benim bir yıllar önce bir çalışma yapmıştım. Bizim Türk tiyatrosuna çok değerli Adalet Ağaoğlu. Çok uzak fazla yakın diye bir şeyi vardı. Tiyatro eseri. Burada ikiz kardeşler vardı. Opposite gender'da. Çok ilginç bir şey. Burada da yazdığım makalede şeyi belirtmiştim. Batılı kaynaklardan etkilenme olabileceği. Ama bakın özgünlük hiçbir zaman ortadan kalkmıyor. Ne yapıyor? Batılı kaynaklardan etkilenme var. Birkaç farklı şekilde. Ama bunu ne yapıyor? Kendi unique artını ortaya koyarak şey yapıyor. Adaptation'lar konusunda hani onlar da tabii ki bir adaptasyon ama her şekil bence bir rewriting'tir. Yani bir bakış açısıdır bence.
Evet
Öyle
hocam.
düşünüyorum.
Teşekkür ederiz. Ben de öyle katılıyorum. Sanırsam Yakup hocam bir şey söyleyecek. Buyurun hocam. Hocam ben sesinizi duyamıyorum ama
Şimdi geliyor mu? Şu an
Evet,
geliyor mu?
Şu an geliyor hocam. Lütfen devam edin.
Ayça hocam benim için çok kıymetli bir hocam. Önce onunla giriş yapmak istiyorum. Benim hayatımda
Çok teşekkür
önemli yere sahip birkaç hocamdan biridir. Çok kıymetlidir. O nedenle
Çok-
onun konuşmasının olduğu her yerde bulunmak benim için büyük bir onur.
Çok teşekkürler.
Şimdi hocam bir adaptasyon, bir de sessizlikle ilgili birkaç söz söylemek istiyorum. Sizin fikirlerinizi de önemsiyorum bu konuda. Aslında az önce söylediğiniz gibi bütün sahnelemeler aslında bir adaptasyondur. Yani oyunun yazılması anından itibaren sahnelenmesi için yazıldığı için sahnelenme aşaması her zaman yeniden yazma sürecini beraberinde getiriyor. Oyuncular bunda önemli, sahnenin yeri önemli, karakterler, dekor bile değiştiği zaman aslında oyun da bir nevi değişmiş oluyor, özünü kaybetmiş oluyor. Bu oyun yazarının dışında yönetmenin katkısıyla da oluyor ama eğer oyun yazarı kendisi dahi oyunu yönetse bunun benzeriyle karşılaşmak durumunda kalıyor. Yani oyun birden değişebiliyor, bir adaptasyon metnine dönüşüyor, şartlar onu gerektiriyor. Sahne geçişlerindeki zorluklar, o gün oynayan oyuncuların farklılığı, oradaki sahneye katacağı duygudaki değişkenlik hepsi bir arada olunca anlamda kaybedilmeden yeniden yazılmış oluyor aslında. Bir nevi Gülten Hocam'ın o Molière'in Cimrisi'nin Arap kültürüne adaptasyonuyla ilgili sorusunda o değişim aslında metnin kendi ana dilindeki sahnelemelerinde bile mümkün. Yani 500. sahneleme 100. sahnelemeden biraz olsun bir değişime uğruyor. Bu insan canlı bir varlık olduğu için oyuncular da etten kemikten ruhtan var oldukları için ve o günün heyecanı her şeyi sahneye etkilediği için bir nevi dozu farklı bir adaptasyona dönüşüyor. O nedenle sadece başka dilden alınan metinler değil, kendi dilimizde, kendi yazdığımız metinlerde bile çeşitli adaptasyon süreçlerine maruz kalabiliyoruz. Bu aslında kaçınılmayacak da bir durum. Ben sessizlikle ilgili bir şeyler söyleyip soru sormak istiyorum sevgili hocam. Sessizlik aslında üzerine çokça tartışılması gereken, üzerine çok sorular sorulması gereken bir durum. Biz sessizliği tiyatroda karakterin konuşmayışı, susması üzerinden değerlendiriyoruz ama sessizlik o kadar çok katmanları olan bir durum ki yani doğrunun söylenmemesi, doğrunun sessizliği,
Çok doğru.
söylenmesi gereken sözün söylenmeyişi, o sözün sessizliği, hatta insanın içinden geçen duygu ve düşüncelerinin belli konjonktürel durumlarda o anın önemine binaen sessizliğe gömüp başka cümlelerin ardına gizlemesi de bir sessizlik. Bu sessizliğin önemli olduğunu düşünüyorum. Özellikle sinemada çok kullanılıyor ve tiyatroda çokça kullanılıyor. Romanda belki yazarın sahne betimlemelerinde karakterin sessizliğine vurgu yapılıyor ama onun daha çok zihinde canlandırılması için tiyatro ve sinema başarılı bir şekilde kullanılıyor. Dolayısıyla sizin bu geçmiş zamandan gelen özellikle bu az önce örneğini verdiğiniz oyunlardan yola çıkarak karakterlerin sessizliği üzerinden giderse bu sessizliğin ne tür imalar taşıdığı üzerine nasıl yorumlar geliştirebiliriz? Yani çünkü her bir sessizliği bana göre kendinin içinde bir sesi vardır. Sessizliğin sesi. Sessizlik bize konuşur. Biz onu dinleriz, izleriz ve biz o sessizliğe anlamlar yükleriz. Dolayısıyla o sessizlik önemlidir. Doğru tespit yapmak da önemlidir. Yani bu iki oyun içerisindeki sessizliğin önemi bizim için nerede duruyor? Kadının varoluşundan bu yana yaşadığı sorunlar, ayrımcılığa maruz kalması, fiziksel olarak da bazı haklardan ayrı tutularak sessizliğe gömülmesi mi? Yoksa sadece o oyun özelinde kendi içerisinde de başka anlamları gizliyor mu? Bu konuda neler söyleyebiliriz? Teşekkür ederim.
Evet. Silence zaten pause olarak da görülüyor. Bakın bu Love of the Nightingale oyununda. Pause. Tabii bunlar hepsi deliberately done. Yani oradaki silence, Yakup'un dediği gibi. Bu sırada Yakup da çok başarılı bir akademisyen. Gerçekten tiyatro yazarı bir de aynı zamanda. Ve çok güzel kısa öyküler de yazıyor. Eminim belki kendisi de hani o konuda fikirleri bence önemli. Burada da silence, evet, özellikle yazınlarda kısa hikaye olsun, ne bileyim tiyatro eserleri olsun. Tabii ki söylenmez söylemlerdir bunlar. Bir duruştur. bir söyleme tarzıdır aslında. Sessizlik bence 100 tane söylenecek bir şeyden çok çok daha iyi bir şeydir belki de. Yani günlük hayatımıza da bakalım. Bazen sessiz kaldığınız zamanları düşünün. Evet, yani bu da bir cevaptır aslında, değil mi? Genel anlamda bakarsak. Evet, evet, bu konuda bilemiyorum sizlerin görüşleriniz nedir?
Ayça Hocam burada sizin mesela yani 2008 yılıydı yanlış hatırlamıyorsam sizden ders aldım ki eğer
Evet,
süreç izin verseydi sizinle çok güzel bir yüksek lisans tezi de
evet,
yazıyorduk.
evet, doğru.
Becket'in oyununu
Beckett,
çalışacaktım ben. Kendi yazdığım
aynen,
oyundaki yansımalarını çalışacaktım.
evet,
Beckett çok kullanıyor sessizliği.
çok, evet,
Özellikle İkinci Dünya Savaşı döneminde ve sonrasında insanların sessizliğe gömülmesi, daha çok özüyle muhatap olduğu bir süreç başlıyor. Yani insanlar artık sosyal varlık olmanın dışına çıkıp özüyle yaşadığı problemleri çözmeye çalışıyor ya da o çözümsüzlüğe adapte olmaya çalışıyor. Bir adaptasyon sürecine giriyor insanlar ve hala devam ediyor o adaptasyon. Sizin sizce yani sizin kendi düşüncelerinizde sessiz kalış mı çok anlamlı yoksa orada gizlenen sözcüğü başka sözler söyleyerek gizlemek ve bir nevi anlamı manipüle etmek, algıyı manipüle etmek mi daha anlamlı?
her zaman için discourse daha iyidir, değil mi? Yani
Evet,
silence, tamam, silence silence bir reaksiyon ama çok pasif bir reaksiyon, öyle değil mi? Ama gene de bir reaksiyon. Belki de söylem geliştirmek daha güzel bir şey bence, bilemiyorum. Ben öyle
teşekkür
düşünüyorum.
ederim hocam.
Evet, çok sağ ol, çok teşekkürler
Ben teşekkür ederim hocam, çok sağ olun.
contribution için. Evet,
Yakup Hocam teşekkür ederiz. Ahmet Hocam da bekliyor da ona da Ahmet Gökhan
evet,
Hocam da
Gökhan
sanırsam
Hocam. Hı hı.
bir yorum yapacak veya soru soracak. Buyurun hocam.
Merhabalar hocalarım. Öncelikle böyle bir organizasyon için Enes hocama, Hakan hocama, Mesut hocama, Pelin hocama ve adını atladığım diğer arkadaşlara bu tür organizasyon için, enerjiniz için, yılmayışınız için teşekkür ediyorum. Onun dışında ikinci teşekkür Ayça hocama.
Sağ ol.
Ayça hocamla biz bir dönem aynı bölümde de görev yaptık. İki tiyatrocu. Yan yana çok şey paylaşmış olduk bu süreçte. Size de teşekkür ederim hocam. Güzel bir sunumdu.
Sağ
Ağzınıza
ol.
sağlık, emeğinize sağlık. Sondan bir başlayarak Gülten hocama da oradan dönmek istiyorum. Yakup hocam bu sessizlik gerçekten ayrı bir konuşmanın, ayrı bir bu EDN Network bağlamında ayrı bir konuşmanın konusu olacak bir şey. Hatta bununla ilgili de arkadaşlarla paslaşmıştık. Hocam yani reklam olarak anlamazsanız ben bununla ilgili yani çok fazla böyle sizin gibi bu susku, sessizlik şeyini çok irdelediğim için uzunca bir zaman ve Wittgenstein vardır biliyorsunuz filozof, sessizliğin filozofu olarak
Evet.
adlandırılır. Ve işte Tom Stoppard da Wittgenstein'i model alan oyunlar yazmıştır. Hatta bir oyununun ön sözünde doğrudan Wittgenstein göndermesi vardır. Ben bu iki olayı, Wittgenstein'ı ve Tom Stoppard'ı bir araya getiren sessizliklerle dolu, suskularla dolu bir inceleme yapmaya çalıştım. Çünkü Wittgenstein diyor ki üzerine konuşulmayan konusunda susmalı.
Güzel.
Dolayısıyla Beckett'te de, Stoppard'da da, efendim Wittgenstein'da da artık iş metafizik boyuta geldiğinde yani açıklanamayan, somut olarak açıklanamayan noktaya geldiğinde işin içinden çıkılamadığında diyelim bir susku devreye giriyor. Özellikle Rosenkranz'ın Gülenstern Death oyununda bu vardır. Yani Beckett'te de vardır. Hatta çağdaş dönem yazarlarından Enes Hocam'ın elinde de görmüştüm bir dönem. Martin Klimt'te de vardır.
Hı hı.
Yani çok fazla kullanılan bir konuşma yöntemidir. Sessizlik, susku, susma. Birçok şey anlatır. Ve bunun filozofu da Wittgenstein. Bununla ilgili ayrı bir organizasyon iyi olur diye düşünüyorum. Gülten Hocam'ın sorusuna doğrudan cevap olmasa da hani bir fikir verebilmek açısından Molière ve Arap oyun yazarıydı sanırım, değil mi? Oyun yazarıydı. Yani bir oyunun bir oyuna uyarlaması olabilir. Kültürel uyarlama olabilir. Enes Hocam'ın değindiği gibi. Yani bu uyarlama, bu kültürel uyarlama farklı toplumlar arasında da yapılıyor. Aynı toplum arasında da yapılıyor. Özellikle post-war kuşağı bu uyarlamaları, kültürel uyarlamaları çok fazla yürüten, yapan yazarlara ev sahipliği yapmış bir dönem. Yani Edmund Monk bunu çok fazla yapıyor. Yani The Woman oyunda doğrudan Euripides'e, Antik Yunan'a gittiği gibi Shakespeare'i aşılması gereken bir engel olarak görüyor. Oyuncu yazarlığının önünde. Bingo oyununda Shakespeare'i işte halkın çıkarlarını düşünmeyen bir sanatçı olarak görüp onun intihar ettiriyor oyunun sonunda ve kendisine neden böyle yaptığı sorulduğunda ben Shakespeare'in karizmasını kurtardım diyor. Lear oyununda gene önünde engel olarak görüyor. Lear'ı alıyor. Gene bir kültürel uyarlama yapıyor. Yani aynı kültür. Shakespeare'de İngiliz kültürü, Edward Monk da İngiliz kültürü. Ama çağdaş döneme uyarlıyor ve Lear'ı böyle kendini beğenmiş narsist bir karakter olmak çıkarıp kendi oluşturduğu duvarı yıkmak için bir hamle yapan ama öldürülen bir kral olarak gösterip orada da Lear'ın karizmasını kurtarıyor kendince. Martin Cribb'de de vardır uyarlamalar, Churchill'de de vardır, birçoğunda vardır. Ayça Hocam'ın değindiği gibi Phaedra'nın aşkı, Phaedra's Love başlı başına bir uyarlamadır. Genelde sipariş gelir yazarlara. Phaedra'nın aşkı için Kane'e bir sipariş gelmişti. Onun üzerine yazmıştı. Ama böyle bir talep gelmeden de oyun yazarları kültürel uyarlamalar yapabiliyorlar. Tahminim Arap oyun yazarı da Molière'in cimrisini alıp kendi kültürüne ve çağına uyarlamış olabilir diye düşünüyorum. Yoksa adaptasyon işte bir mesela Cormac McCarthy'nin The Road diye bir yakın zamanda vefat etti. Romanı vardır The Road diye. Onu alıp tiyatroya uyarlayan yazar vardır. Çağdaş dönemde. Ya da bunu alıp sinemaya uyarlamışlardır. Sadece The Road, roman, oyun ve sinema versiyonu vardır. Bunlar da adaptasyon kavramına girer diye düşünüyorum. Teşekkür ederim.
Hocam teşekkür ederiz. Silence ve Space üzerine bir round table yapalım. Yani bu bir
Yapalım.
Yani çok
güzel bir şey oldu.
çok kıvrak olur.
Aynen yani sonbaharda sizleri de davet ederek güzel bir round table yapacağımıza inanıyorum.
Süper.
Ayça Hocam'ı da tutmak istemiyorum. Sanırsam tez savunması vardı. Çok
Evet
teşekkür
iki de
ederiz
var.
hocam. Katılımınız için, her şey için. İnşallah sizleri yeniden görmek isteriz. Konferansımıza da mutlaka bekliyoruz. Çok güzel bir konferans olacağına emin olabilirsiniz. Çok önemli yazarlar çağırıyoruz ve eleştirmenler. Her şey için teşekkürler. İnşallah sonbaharda yeniden Gideon Talk'larda görüşmek üzere. Kendinize iyi bakın hocam.
İnşallah. Teşekkür ederiz.
Ben de yorumlarınız için teşekkür ederim hocam. Herkese.
Çok sağ olun değerli hocalarım. Herkese
Görüşürüz
Çok
hocam.
teşekkür
Kendinize iyi
ederiz.
bakın.
Görüşmek üzere.
Hadi hoşça
Herkese iyi
kalın,
günler, iyi
iyi
tatiller
günler.
İyi günler
dilerim.
hocam. Çok sağ olun katıldığınız için. İyi tatiller.